That's right, back Charlie. That's right.
You always use that active and defending. I think it's like.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian. Man. Come on, Ian. As the big man just said there, people deluded, I'm back again. Special guest setting, someone that I've wanted to get on my show for a while. People have been nagging me to get you on the show. They say he's a Spurs fan, but he's an honest fan. He knows football. I think you lot will make great content. So I'm happy that we've got it finally sorted. How you doing, my friend, man?
I'm good. I'm sure that's probably not true. Everyone doesn't want to see me, but
no, man, it is. You know, it is. You're a name that keeps coming up. That's why I keep pestering you in your DMs. I'm like, you literally keep coming up. And for an Arsenal fan, I'm like, why do they want me to be with a Spurs fan so bad? But through checking out your content, obviously you're a Spurs fan, but you're a bit like myself in that you're a fan of the game first. You don't let your bias towards Spurs or to whatever blind you. And I think, you know, you understand football. And I've actually watched a lot of your content. I've seen you take a couple of pelters from your own fan base as well. So you stand in your opinion, man. So I'm happy for that.
Yeah, look. Do you know what it is? I'm one of these fans. I've never been this way. I've never been one of those biased fans that, you know, you got those fans, the moment you say something about their club, their back goes up, they just go on the defensive, the knives come out. Yeah. I'm just honest. Like, I just don't, I don't understand. I think we live in a world where people think if I say nice things happen. I don't think that's quite how it works. So, yeah, listen, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
No, man, appreciate you for coming on. And I agree with you. I'm a sort of man that I believe in, you know, if I'm standing out in the rain and it's raining, why am I going to tell everyone it's the sun shining? It don't make sense. It makes me dishonest. And I feel in the space of what we make with content, you know, you're either hyperinflated opinions, bashing every club and whatnot, or you're positive to the point where it's negative and damn right, you're lying. So I'm appreciative to have you. As I said, man, I want to jump straight into it. What's the expectations on Postecoglou, man? Because I know that's someone that's just joined Spurs. I know you've spoken about it plenty of occasions. I just want to, you know, as an Arsenal fan, delve into it from a Spurs perspective, really.
I think it all depends on who you ask. I mean, at the beginning of the season, it was very much a fan base that were, you know, they were reeling from Harry Kane going. You know, it was one of our own, our top goal scorer. He goes. We'd had a really bad back end of last season with content. The football was horrible. And everyone was very much down in the dumps. And lots of people were, I mean, there were people talking about relegation battles. There were people talking about finishing mid-table. And look, I said to myself, listen, I'm not putting too much on this guy this year. For year one, look, everyone wants their team to do it like that. But for me, it was implement a philosophy, start showing signs that we're going to build a team that want to compete in the future, bring back some feel-good factor to Spurs. And you know what? If we can get back into Europe, a good season. If we get Champions League, a phenomenal season. What's happened is the expectations after the first 10 games has made people forget all of that.
Oh, we've been there
all of that. And it's now suddenly, you know what? We can win a league. It's like, you know what? Nah, we can't. So look, for me, my expectations on him, I don't have expectations. I think, look, from where we're at, I think when you look at some of the players like Son and Maddison and Van der Ven and Romero and Basuma, we should be getting a European spot. But you know what? Look, what are we going to do if he doesn't? What, we're going to sack him? Start again for the 15th time in 15 years? So no expectations from me. But, you know, just because there's no expectations doesn't mean I can't be critical of certain things he does. So, yeah, for me, just relaxing this season. There's no rush. There's no rush that we have to win a league. There's no rush that we've not won the league since 1961.
Way before my time. I'm 28.
Hang on. Listen, I'm a bit older than you, but I wasn't around in 1961. So, yeah, listen, no massive expectations, man. No massive expectations.
I mean, that makes sense. And to be honest, obviously in the group chat, I was giving my Spurs supporting friends hell, saying you're getting the Celtic manager, etc., etc. But he's been a breath of fresh air. Unfortunately, because of the club he manages, I can't like it to a point. But for a Spurs man, he's a very likable guy. He's quite honest. I think, you know, the way he plays football is quite decent. So I think he's ticking over in the right regards. I think you made a great point. The sacking thing, it's not going to work. You've tried to get like the proven winners of Conte and Jose. It works for a second and then all the wheels come off. So I think you kind of have to stick with this guy. He needs to be backed. Clearly, you're not being helped with, you know, your squad depth and the stats being tested. You touched on things of being critical with Postecoglou. What do you mean by that?
Listen, I just mean that we seem to have got to a point, the Spurs fan base, where because we like Postecoglou, because he's brought some feel-good factor back, because he's a breath of fresh air, that every decision now he makes in a game, certain fans don't allow you to now criticize any of it. So, for example, I was really critical of him on Saturday. I think if you go to Wolves, I think they're a good team. Wolves at home, they've been
dangerous
hard
side.
But you know what? You can't go there with free holding midfielders. You've got to have a runner. You've got to have someone that's going to try and create, try and get forward. So for me, things like that I'm critical of. Not giving any of the youngsters a chance, I'm critical of. But it doesn't go down too well in the Spurs fan base at the moment. So but I'm never going to change who I am, man. I'm never going to change who I am. Listen, I'm not critical of him in general. I like him in general. I think
just constructive criticism by the sound of it.
Yeah, of course, man. Like, do you know what? If we ever get to the stage where after every game, win, lose, or draw, no one can be constructive about anything, then shut down all of TalkSport, shut down Sky Sports, BT Sport, every YouTube channel. That's what they're there for, right? We're there to pick through the bones, be constructive. So nothing too bad at the moment. 2 defeats in a row. We've got to stop that, but nothing too bad at the moment.
What do you make of the football you lot are playing? Do you buy into the factor that you're playing well? Do you think people are overestimating it? Where are you at with that?
Yeah, Ange ball. Yeah, look, I do you know what? I think in patches we've played well. I think in certain games we've had 15, 20-minute spells where you go, yeah, this is good. This is more like Spurs. But we've also had 15, 20-minute spells more often than not where I'm going, oh, this is a bit rubbish.
Oh, we've had that at Arsenal.
So, you know, and yeah, every club has that. So listen, I can see what he wants to do. I still think Matt, he needs windows. He needs transfer windows. He needs a lot of players to come in that can play his style of football. But I like what he's trying to implement. But I do think the Spurs fans are going well overboard with what I think the results in the first 10 games of the season actually made people think we're a lot better than we are. So whilst it was brilliant to be getting wins over the line, I don't think it was this free-flowing Guardiola type football that everyone was talking about, you know?
I'm definitely with you in that because we've had that under Mikel Arteta. We've had that definitely under Unai Emery. Like I would say my toughest time as a content creator is, if you remember when Emery first came in, I think we went like 20 games unbeaten, and really on paper, obviously football's a results driven business. In May, I'm not going to look back and say, well, we was better when we won this game and lost that game, etc., etc. But it's hard to criticize, and you probably seeing it now when all people care about is the result. You win the result, people go about their business, but the devil's in the details. I didn't necessarily think in those games we're playing well. But, you know, it's only when your team's doing bad or you're in a bad run of form that you probably see it yourself, that people have more time to kind of diagnose things. Would you class Postecoglou potentially as naive? Because as a non-Spurs fan, I look at him and I admire it. I think managers have to stay true to their principles, but that does go into a bit of naivety. And I've got onto Mikel Arteta about that. And I go back to the Chelsea game where I think you had 9 players, you're still playing a high line. I know Sky Sports, etc., said it was brave, but I genuinely believe if that's Arsenal or some other clubs, they're going to call us idiots, etc. So where are you at with that?
Oh, you're going to get me in trouble again. I had this all last week. Look, for me, yeah, I'm definitely in the camp. I think it was naive. Listen, let's look at it like this. Let me take it back to the beginning.
Go on.
If we're going to talk about that is brave, right? And playing with that high line against Chelsea is brave against 9 men. Cool. But then that goes on to what I said earlier. Then when you go to your next game and you're away at Wolves and you park the bus with, well, not park the bus, but you put 3 holding midfielders
in midfield.
I'm like, well, hang on. Just now I was told, well, that's the way Postecoglou is. He's brave. Now I'm being told, oh, well, hang on. He was protecting the defence and we needed to be cautious. Which one is it? Because for me,
can't pick and choose.
The game against Chelsea, I truly believe that we could have got a point, even with 9 men, if we hadn't have gone so open. But listen, ifs, buts, monkey nuts, as they say. Who knows, man? Who knows? Look, All I know is that I've been watching football a long time, and I don't know if you've ever seen this. I've never ever seen a manager say, you know what, we play a high line, we're down to 9 men. Let's double down on that high line and play even higher. Like,
No.
so I think he got that wrong. The Spurs fan base lost their mind at me for suggesting that, oh, you don't deserve Ange Postecoglou. It's how he plays. And I'm like, well, who plays on the halfway line when Chelsea literally just now have to just play one ball over the top every time? Who? So look, I didn't agree.
To a degree.
Yeah, to a degree. Listen, I'm just glad it was Nicholas Jackson. Let's be brutally honest. Listen, if that had been Saka, Martinelli, and Jesus going through, if that had been Marcus Rashford, Højlund, whoever else going through, I could go on and on and on. I just felt it was naive. Some people saw it as brave, but I don't know. Not for me, man. Not for me.
There's a fine line, man, and I've definitely been there with Mikel Arteta. I do think a bit like Postecoglou for me with Arteta. I do think managers are kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, because there's been games where I think we've been almost too brave against City. Ironically, I think the last game where we finally beat City at home was the first time we found balance. I think sometimes we respected them way too much. And ironically, we've seen with you lot typically do well against them. I thought there was things we could have learned. And I also think there's times we've been probably a bit too gung-ho. So I think you're right in your criticisms of things. How do you feel about the injuries then? Because obviously injuries are never good for any team. You lot have a small squad. I thought one luxury as to why you lot look stronger for top four is, yes, you're in the FA Cup and gone out the League Cup, but generally it's one game a week. It's the chance to kind of go back to basics under Postecoglou, really.
Yeah, look, I think this goes back to the bit about the beginning of it being a build, a rebuild, whatever you want to call it, a project, a process. Look, I think most Spurs fans, deep down, if you remove emotion, and it's really difficult to do, if you remove emotion,
especially in football,
absolutely, most Spurs fans would have said, you know what? Oh, this is paper thin, this squad. This is paper thin. It's all well and good when Maddison's fit. It's all well and good when Van der Ven and Romero are fit. You start to unplug them and the drop is huge. So, look, the chances of getting Van der Ven and Maddison in the same game, pulling up and getting 2 to 3 month injuries, you could say unlucky. But look, I look at the number of injuries Chelsea have had already this season. Sometimes they've had 13, 14 first team players out. I look at Man United, they've got injuries all over the place. Arsenal in games this season have had injuries all over the place. So this isn't new. It's not like, oh, poor Spurs. Oh, God, no.
It's something everyone has to kind of deal with.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And this is the problem. We had the chance, especially at centre-half. We had the chance all summer. Yeah, we knew we needed centre-halves that could play Ange Postecoglou's style of football, which is quick recovery, high line. And we got Van der Ven. Brilliant player. Done really well. Didn't buy anyone else. It was literally like, okay, we've got Romero, Van der Ven. Oh, if that doesn't work, we'll go straight back to what we knew last year. Ben Davies, Eric Dyer. So you kind of, it's unlucky on one hand, but you kind of reap what you sow on the other hand.
Exactly.
Look, we've got the January window coming up where you go, right, it's got to be it, right?
You've got to do something, yeah.
You've got to go and, so look, man, I don't know. Listen, I think we've got a good 11 when they're all fit, but like you said, a couple of injuries and the drop-off is huge. And I don't know if you've seen our next 2 games, have you?
Who you got?
We've got Aston Villa.
Away.
We've got Aston Villa at home, but with our defence playing that high line with Watkins, DRB, and those guys. And then after that, we're at Man City. So, yeah. And going back to what you were saying, my man, about the lessons learned of playing football. I was asked 3 weeks ago, fans go, oh, let's predict the next 4 or 5 results. And again, another time when I was in trouble with my fan base, I was saying, I said, even before the injuries, I think Man City will batter us. I think Man City
You don't typically do well against them though, man.
Yeah, but why? Normally we sit back and counter, right?
Oh, yeah. That's something that's left, yeah.
We're not going to do that. And look what Wolves did to us. Like, they only won 2-1, but they were all over us. Like, chance after chance. That was before the injuries. Now we've got the injuries. I'm looking at this and going, I'll just keep it down to 3 or 4. Like, I genuinely think if we go to Man City, try and play football against Man City, I think it will be like when you lot lost the back end of last year. I think it was that big game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Don Robbie did his big old his Napoleon speech
Yeah,
outside the ground about
yeah,
rallying the troops.
tried to galvanize the troops.
Yeah, and then look, Man City, Arsenal tried to play Man City, and unfortunately,
Sliced us
Man
open.
City are the best football team in the world at playing football. They are. Real Madrid couldn't cope with it. Bayern Munich couldn't cope with it. Arsenal couldn't cope with it. And if Spurs try and cope with it, Erling Haaland's he's going to win the Golden Boot just from that one game if we don't make, So look, watch out for that one. That's in 2 weeks, so watch out for that. That's going to be fun.
That sounds mad. But you're right about injuries, because I always say when it comes to injuries, I have sympathy for the fan bases because we can't control anything. That is one thing I don't have sympathy out of all of them that I might have for Mikel Arteta. Now, granted, where Spurs are concerned and Arsenal are concerned, we can talk about what we should or shouldn't have done in the summer. And maybe the club tried to. We don't know about deals that didn't break down, but a bit like on a football field, it's a results-driven business. Did you do it or didn't you? And with Arsenal, granted, since the start of the season, we've been having injuries. But as you said, other people have had it worse. And the last 2 years, granted, it was more the tail end of last season. We've kind of seen how it's gone, really and truly. And, where Thomas Partey is concerned, fair enough, he was fit for 40 games last year, which is unheard of. We know he's a flight risk. So fair enough, you've got Declan Rice, but we're down to our bare bones in midfield. Edu and Arteta, last time I checked, were central midfielders. I've seen you both play midfield, so that should be the one area there's more questions than answers. Defensively, I think we've been dealt a short hand, but we're kind of all right. Up front, I know Eddie's nothing to write home about, but we could have brought in a striker, but you're going to have to deal with it essentially in a nice way. I don't think anyone wants to buy anyone in January. Me and you want our teams to buy someone in January because we're reacting to what we did or didn't do in the summer or anything that's happened across the course of the season. So it's a bit of a madness. Speaking about summer signings, what have you made of all of them? Because Van der Veen, I can't pronounce his name, but I was watching him in Bundesliga. Didn't think he'd be this good for Spurs, but he looks quality. Madison, he's clearly a good player. And you didn't bring anyone else in, did you? Oh, the keeper's been decent. They've been quality additions.
Look, Mickey Van der Ven, it's plain to see, I think, for anyone that watched Bundesliga, I think it's plain to see why Postecoglou wanted him, because he's so quick and perfect on the high line for the recovery. He's perfect for it. But it's the cure and the cause, because it's brilliant when you've got him. When you haven't, you realise, we've got
back to square one.
Nothing. Yeah. So there aren't many players like him. Look, Mickey Van der Ven's had a really good start to the season. He's still only 22. I think people need to remember that. So we've got to be patient with him. I think he'll grow into a top class centre half. But again, look, I'm not one of these that sees a player for 10 games and then judges them and wants to call them world class and all that. I don't buy into all that.
That's 98% of football fans, mate.
Oh, mate, someone has a good game and oh my God, they're world class, Ballon d'Or and
ridiculous.
The signing of James Maddison was everything. And I've wanted him for about 5 years. I've wanted him since.
Oh, you're not alone, man.
Coventry. Like, it's very rare in this day and age, as you know, to find the number 10 that can score, that can assist, take set pieces, right foot, left foot, English as well for the home.
And he wants the expectation on his shoulders as well. I think that's a really underrated thing when people speak about Maddison.
Yeah, for sure. Listen, I've wanted him for ages. We bring him in, and for 40 million. When you look at some of the prices players are going for, and I did a video in the summer where I said, Kai Havertz.
Crazy.
I did a video in the summer and I said, this is the best signing Spurs have made for a decade. And what I mean by that is not players that we've bought that have then gone on to do things like Bale that progressed into being Bale, Modric who progressed, but bringing in a ready-made top-class footballer that can just slot in immediately. Maddison's the one. And do you know what? We've got no James Maddison now for, depending on his injury, maybe 10 games. Yeah, exactly. But we've got no creativity without him. So he's the big miss. He's a superb signing. The keeper's done brilliantly.
Very good.
He's done excellently, and he flew under the radar. I don't think any of us can sit there and go, yeah, I know loads about Vicario. The talk was obviously Raya. It was that we put in a bid for Raya. Well, we did. We put in a bid. It was rejected because it was too low. And everyone was like, oh my God, who is this guy? He's 17 million pounds. It's cheap. He's been nothing short of brilliant, to be honest. And then after that, it was like Brennan Johnson, who we haven't really seen get going yet because of injuries. Solomon on a free, who's very much the squad player, the rotation player. And other than that, we brought in a couple of youngsters in Alejo Valise, who's an 18-year-old forward, and Ashley Phillips, who's an 18-year-old centre half. So for me,
Long-term
3
plans.
of the 7 was brilliant. The other 4 for the future, but could have really upgraded the first team.
Do you think Daniel Levy shortchanged Postecoglou then?
I mean, do you know what? You could have just said any manager's name in there. Yeah, Daniel Levy.
Yeah.
Listen, when we say shortchanged, look, Spurs operate the way Spurs operate. It's what our owner does. First of all, you had a lot of people that saw signings come in before Kane left, right? So you saw Vicario, Van der Ven, Madison, and we're like, oh, it's 100 million we spent there. Oh my God, we're going to have the Kane money as well. I don't think people quite understood that was the Kane money. I don't think people understood that.
Yeah.
We knew he was going, and we were actually spending money we knew was coming in. That's how he runs. That's how he operates. Everyone else is then cheap and freeze, and they're young. That's good. That's fair enough to a degree, but at some point, you've got to put your hands in the pocket, and and that's the difference between lots of fans now going, "Oh, Daniel Levy's changed. He's seen the error of his ways after 23 years." And then there's other fans like me going, no, he hasn't. Like,
Lepers got to change their spots, man.
Let's wait and see. Oh my God. Do you know what? If I had £1 for every time in the last 23 years I've heard, let's wait and see what Levy does.
You'd be a rich man. You can buy these players yourself, mate.
Exactly, man. Exactly. So, look, it's tough. We know what to expect from Spurs in transfer windows, and nothing surprises me, man. Nothing.
If I play devil's advocate, I know he's not known for being a notoriously big spender, but he did find 50-odd million quid for Richarlison and a few years ago in Ndombele. Is it really fair to say he's a penny pincher then?
Do you know what it is? Listen, I think when we're talking about Daniel Levy, the way he runs, Daniel Levy very much runs on what he brings in goes out, right? So we're not a club that are going to go, you know what? If we spent 300 million this window, we could really challenge. We're not that team. We're a club that are like, hang on, maybe if we sell Richarlison for 50 million, we can go and buy another player for 50 million. He's always spent money. I don't think that's the problem. We've spent good money. What's happened over the years, it's been spent so poorly. Like you talk about Ndombele. I mean, you look at it, right? Ndombele, Richarlison are 110 million between them. Davinson Sanchez was another 42 million pounds on top of that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, Giovanni Lo Celso, who's been here 5 years and done nothing, is another 40 million.
Really?
Yeah.
Bro, I didn't think you spent that much on him. I thought he was at least a 20 million buy. Wow.
No. Eric Lamela was like 30 million. Ryan Sessegnon was 25 to 30 million. Emerson Royale, 32 million. So the money's been there, but where we've had no plan and we keep constantly chop and change the owner, the manager, the directors of football, it's like that. It's like that all the time. So
just buying ingredients and not knowing what meal you necessarily want to cook.
Bang on. I mean, like, who bought Richarlison? What sort of a signing is that? Who was he bought for? But it is what it is. And he's not a penny pincher, but what he's not is a risk taker. He's not a risk taker. The Chelsea owners, all right, they've not got it right yet, but they'll take risks.
They're going to get it right sooner rather than later based on what they're doing, yeah.
They will. Man City, their owners are risk takers because for them, it's about winning. For our owners, it's not about winning. For our owners, it's about a business model. Fair enough. But the quicker all our fan base understands that, and I can't believe they don't after 23 years. No, it's like if you're with a girl for 23 years and every weekend she goes out shopping, does her hair, comes back, she spent 300-400 quid, and you're like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? And then still 23 years later, you're like, oh, that's what she does. You know what I mean? Like 23 years later, you're not surprised anymore. Same thing. If I go to the pub every weekend with my mates, my missus can't be like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?
You've been doing that since however long. Yeah.
Right. So it works both ways, right? So for me, I think we've got to realize what we are. We've already had this week, in the last 7 days, you've had Eccleshare, Ornstein, Romano that have all said, "Oh, Spurs, there's not a lot of money to be spent moving forward," and you're
We're
like,
getting
"Hang
the
on,
same talk as well.
sorry, haven't we built this super duper mega stadium that prints money, and now all of a
The
sudden,
concerts every week.
So yeah, look, it is what it is, but that's why I used to be so angry with Levy and Inic. Now I'm just like, it is
You
what
got to
it
save
is.
your own sanity to a degree.
Exactly.
You're bang on the money. So do you think it's a thing where Postecoglou has to over exceed expectations sort of thing?
Yeah.
Or is it a thing where if you look at my club, not that we're anything to scream and shout about, Kroenke, you know, you've seen it. We was always doing protests and things like that. It seems like, you know, he's installed Arteta, he's doing all right. And it just seems like the purse strings are being kind of unearthed, or better yet, when we are buying players, it's kind of working. I do think the ambition is kind of curbed, similar to you, because you look at City, you look at Chelsea, they've probably got more ambition. A lot of dominoes would have to probably fall into place for Arsenal or Spurs of varying degrees to win a Prem and all of these sort of things.
Sure. Yeah, look, absolutely. I think this was the casing point in all of this is look at Harry Redknapp. Look at Pochettino. These guys had us up there. These guys had us in Champions League.
Poch was the first to make me scared of you lot, if I'm honest.
There you go. Shoestring budgets, overachieved, got the best out of players. But then when it was time to say, listen, there's only so much I can get out of these players.
You either go up there or you drop down.
From here to there. We're like, well, no, so I just keep doing what you're doing. That's cool. But then because of that, I don't ever set my expectations at winning trophies. I don't set my expectations. And people will say, oh, you've got to get higher expectations. But I can't control that. That's what the club does. I want to win things. But
you're not a decision maker at the club.
Right. So like you know that team that Pochettino had? And I think most people, maybe not Arsenal fans, but most people at that time were like, look, we like watching Spurs. Spurs have turned into a really good team.
Saying like really it, good but I have to admire it, man. Especially the year. I think there was a year you lot didn't lose at home. I think you had like Rose, Walker, the 2 girls you left centre half. Yeah, man, that was sick. I can't even lie.
Yeah, it was good. But you know what? Tickle that belly. What's underneath that? Not good enough. And the moment one player comes out, you're weakening by that much. You know what I mean? So from my point of view, I think it's very much going to have to be about Postecoglou overachieving. The thing that makes me laugh is I'm seeing people already saying, oh, Postecoglou's overachieving already. I don't know how anyone can think anyone's overachieved or underachieved after 12 games of football.
Yeah, 10, 12 games. It doesn't make sense. The conclusions are being drawn like for no reason.
Exactly. Because the way I see it is this. We had a fantastic start. We've just lost 2. We do lose to Villa and we do lose to Man City. All of a sudden, you're 4 on the bounce. 4 on the bounce. And then what those fans do, scary. Those fans that say overachieving and title challenges, what they do is they double down. So they don't want to say, oh, God, we went a bit early. What they do is go, oh, but it's not his fault, injury, suspensions. But you knew all that.
Yeah.
You knew that was coming.
Yeah.
You didn't think that this 11 was going to play every minute of every game this season.
They live in La La Land, man. I don't think they understand how football works and how the 38-game calendar works, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, listen, got players going away on international duty, international tournaments, suspensions, form never gets talked about enough, injuries, all of these things.
Facts.
Like you said now about dominoes, all of those things, the stars need to align perfectly to have the same 11 38 games a season.
Now, lucky you are if you have the same 11. You know, even look at Arsenal, more or less, you know, key injuries to key players, mainly Saliba and Jesus kind of crippled us last season. But for the majority of it, our first 11 was relatively fit this season. Since the first game, we've had to deal with injury. So, and I remember I watched one of your videos. I can't remember the exact video, but you said it in a great term. It's like, you more or less said something like last season is not this season, as simple as it is. I think a lot of people from all clubs keep mirrors of last season and forget everybody starts again, essentially. And looking at Arsenal last season versus this year, even as the season went on, you know Zinchenko is inverted. Saka's the danger man. You double up against him. You know, you kind of stifle against Zinchenko. You're finding ways to play against us. And that's probably something that you lot will have to go through as well. And it goes back to your point about fans. I don't know what it is, but and I understand it. There's so much, you know, football's an escape for some people. We love our football clubs, but it's almost like fans fail to understand 1 week is not the be all and end all. There's 38 long game weeks in the Premier League. So you're bang on the money, man.
Do you know what? The thing I've always said is you could be brilliant this season. That doesn't equate to next season you're equally as brilliant, because you have to keep moving. And if we look at the example of Pep Guardiola at Man City, every year, us mere mortal football fans, we all say things like, "Oh God, he's let this player go, and look who's left Man City this year," and we all go, "They're going to be weaker." Pep Guardiola knows what he's doing.
He's a madman. He's not going to let things happen for no reason.
Exactly. He knows. All right, Cancelo. Yeah, go on, you can go. Mahrez, Gundogan. Yeah, all right. I've had 4 or 5 good years from you boys. See you later.
Do your thing, yeah.
He knows what he's doing. You evolve, you move on. Unpredictability. Now, when you play Man City, it's slightly different. You've got Kovacic in there. Haven't had that before, right? You've got Jeremy Doku. They've not had him before.
Got a direct winger again, yeah.
Got direct winger. You've now got Alvarez and Haaland starting. They've not really done that before with 2 forwards, sort of.
It was either one or the other. Great points.
So you've got to mix it up. You've got to make people think. And the thing is, I said this about Arsenal in the summer, that for me, I think Arsenal had a really good year last year. I don't know how anyone could say you didn't. You had a really good year last year. It was much better than I think at the beginning of the season anyone expected. But you've got to keep going. My worry for you lot, and when I say worry, I'm a Spurs fan, so I don't really care. But, like when I looked at the transfer business you done, I thought to myself, I like Declan Rice. Declan Rice is a top player. But if you're going to spend 220, 230 million, whatever you did in the window, you've got to close that gap to City.
Need more bang for our buck.
And I don't mean over 12 games. I don't mean, oh, well, we're 2 points behind them now, or however many points you are behind them. I mean, over the course of 38 games, everybody, this isn't just Arsenal, everyone's got to go, right, how can we close the gap on City? And City have shown the model. City have shown the model in terms of every player doesn't play 38 games a season, rotation, knowing when to rotate, keeping those rotated players happy.
Versatile footballers as well. You're bang on the money.
Grealish, Silva, they don't all play every game. They're all happy. They're all winning titles, right? Every other fan goes, oh, look at the goal stats of this City player to this player. Yeah, but those players don't play every 90 minutes. These players talk about their goals, talk about their assists, talk about their winning titles. Yeah, they're winning titles. And I just felt that Arsenal, with the money you spent, could have gone and got your Madisons, could have gone and got a Doku, could have gone and got a Kudus, right? Build
2 names you said there in particular as well, Kudus and Maddison. Maddison, fair enough, I'll leave the club alone. That was just more me wanting him. But when I look at it, I don't think Maddison would have played the same way he is at Spurs in an Arsenal team. But you can't convince me that is not more value for money, even if we look past the obvious, which Maddison's a better player than Havertz. It's the mentality. You need mentality monsters. And I like how Maddison, him and Saka are going back and forth. He's shown that at Leicester. Havertz looks like he needs to install some confidence in himself. Going back to our model, this is what I was saying in the summer, and that I do think we've added depth. I do think we're stronger. But at the same time, it's a bit of a sideways step because a couple of injuries, a couple of key players out, we're back to square one. I did like Timber. Of course, nobody knew he was going to get injured first game of the season. Sure. Raya, I still think the jury's out, but I hear it. You was once upon a time Arteta's first choice. You are a decent keeper. You've shown at Brentford. You played how Arteta wants to play. You're kind of give or take, maybe got some qualities different from Ramsdale. I don't want to make this a Havertz hate campaign, but Havertz was the one, because I said we need 2 central midfielders. There was a lot of talk about turning Declan Rice into an 8. Great, go and do that and play as a 6. But I think we needed a younger model for Partey. And I have to be inclined to believe that the 2 midfielders, Havertz was one of them. And I always say this with Kai Havertz, it's not that I don't like him. I do think there's no in between. I just think the bar is on the floor. Like, I'm praising you for working hard and putting in the shift. Once we get in there, as you know, it's a dangerous territory. And when you speak to Arsenal fans, every Arsenal fan says something different. What's his best position? Is he a left-sided 8? Is he a right-sided 8? Is he a 10? Is he a striker? Now, whatever you have down or anyone listening has down, where does he rank up around the others in the Arsenal team? Then where is it in the Premier League? For £65 million of a German international, of a Champions League winner, I find myself saying things about him, bro, that I would be saying if you was an 18-year-old foreign player, you came to this league and you need your handheld. And I personally look at Havertz in the same way, indirectly. I look at Declan Rice, I look at Odegaard, Jesus and Zinchenko in particular, because you lot are fairly young, but you've got a wealth of experience coming into this young team. Havertz looks like he needs his handheld, and Arteta, I can't see it. Now, fair enough, you know about more football than me. Like I always say, if we go back to the summer, all the other signings I hear it. But with Havertz, I was a thing where Arteta, your hit to miss ratio has been a lot better. You know more about football than me. I'm not going to back you blindlessly, but I back what you're doing. So if you know football at a higher level than me and you believe in Havertz, I'll give it a chance. But saying that, we don't necessarily have time. As you said, we need to be trying to close the gap to City. I can see how the other players in their indirect way close the gap. How does Kai Havertz? Now, I hope this is just a tough 3-4 months, but I can't see light at the end of the tunnel. The only thing I see how he adapts is it's off the ball. You put in a shift, you can do the high intensity pressing stuff, which every professional athlete should be able to do. Hear it, but I don't know. And it just looks for me with him is that, yeah, like he just looks like he needs that one eureka moment, that brace or that goal. But
yeah.
Can't see
you know what?
man.
But you know what? Listen, when a manager is spending £65 million on a player, that manager has to live and die by that decision because you've been backed. It's not like, oh, you're given a 15, 20 million cheap player, make the best of it. You've been given 65 million. And like we said earlier, if someone had said to you in the summer at 65 million, that price gets you Kudos and change. That price gets you Doku and change. That price gets you Madison and change.
Yeah.
We could keep going. Even then, would you have been better off with a James Ward-Prowse, for example? Do you know what I mean?
I can't lie. On paper, yeah, because you know what the hell James Ward-Prowse is, bro. Like, you're a centre mid.
Do you know the thing is, it's like, I remember I did a stream once with Premsy, and I was like, listen, he's not that bad. He's not that bad. And I was wrong because he is that bad. And sometimes at Chelsea, though, I thought, yeah, I can see why they bought you. It's not come together yet, but it could drop. Problem is, we're now 2 or 3 years down the line, and it's still not quite dropped. So, listen, that's on Arteta. That's on Arteta, and this is the difference, right? Again, go back to people always say to me, "Oh, you love Pep Guardiola." The reason I use him as the benchmark is because
he's the benchmark,
best,
bro.
right?
He's done what we want to do. Like,
if he bought in Havertz, he wouldn't. I mean, let's be brutally honest, he wouldn't. If he bought in Havertz at 65 million, it didn't work. He'd be getting rid of him the next summer, right? That's what he does. Right,
but that's the thing, though. Where's the get out clause? That's why I'm even more scared because fair enough, if you look at who I don't think is a bad player, Fabio Vieira, you got him for 20, 30. There's relatively upside. You can get out of that. When you've got my man on probably 150, maybe 200 bags a week, 65 odd million quid. You can't, like you said, you got to live or die by it. It has to work. Whether he becomes a great super sub, whether he becomes a false nine, whether, because I'm sure you speak to some Arsenal fans, people go back to the Leverkusen days. Oh, he plays on the right, he plays on the left, he plays as a false nine, he brings physicality. The saddest thing is, I think Kai Havertz is a bad footballer, but I don't think he's a bad player. I actually think there's something there, but to help us where we want to go, I don't know.
He's an enigma, isn't he? I don't quite know. I don't quite know. I say I
people
don't.
say watch games again to see what he brings.
What's his position? Yeah, do you know what? Whenever people say that, right?
That means you're shit, bro.
Whenever I hear that about people like Richarlison, oh, you've got to watch the game back to see what he did. Nah, if I have to watch a game back to see what he did, yeah, then it tells you that what they are is hardworking.
Yeah.
Now, hardworking should be a prerequisite for a footballer on, I don't care if it's $1,000 a week or 200 grand a week. Yeah. You're a professional footballer. Hardworking isn't a skill set.
It's a minimal blood.
Right. Do you know what I mean? It's not a skill set. So I get this a lot about Kulusevski. I'm not a fan of Kulusevski. I've made this really clear a lot.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't have thought you said that. I like that guy, man.
He doesn't look, I can't.
Very hot and cold, but a baller, man. Surely
he just doesn't do enough. He hasn't got any pace. He cuts in. He's so predictable. But people go, "Oh, if you look at his running stats, he's run further than any other winger in the league." I don't care. Get Mo Farah on the right wing. If you want running stats, get me Mo Farah. It's not what you're in the team to do.
Exactly. You're right.
Havertz is one of those. He is playing though like a scared boy. He's got that demeanor about him of, oh, I'm a bit, he needs to just sort of pump out his chest and go, you know what? No, this is my time. And he doesn't do it. So, hey, listen, that's on Arteta.
And that's the thing. I'd rather him, sometimes when you're so scared, and you've probably seen it with some Spurs footballers, definitely not to Havertz's standard, but sometimes you can be so scared to make mistakes. Indirectly, you're making a mistake in that you're not standing out. Mistakes happen in it. Football, the ball gets lost on the transition. People switch off set pieces. There's high turnovers. This is football. And I want to see Havertz just get the bit between your teeth. I thought you would have came here. I thought you would have struggled. I thought you would have been bad, but I didn't think it would be this bad. I thought you would have had a bit between your teeth. Oh, Chelsea sold me. Well, woe is me. I've won Chelsea the Champions League. I'm going to go and prove them wrong. And I can't see that. Like, if everybody's fit at Arsenal Football Club, there's not a single Arsenal fan right now in November that says Kai Havertz gets anywhere near it. And that is unacceptable. And like you said, I'm past the point of Kai Havertz, really, because we've seen this. I kind of have to accept you for what you are. It's Mikel Arteta. I don't know who you should have signed. You know, I could say, even though he hasn't kicked a ball at Chelsea, Lavia would have been better spent. Clearly, Maddison, Kudus, and I'm sure there's a bunch of players. And that's my concern because, you know, this wasn't a slapdash decision. As we both know, you know, they were probably talking with Havertz for months or weeks, enticing him as to how he fits in, how he can improve him, what he's been doing this season. So, you know Havertz to a degree better than you know yourself. Anyone that speaks about Arteta, even Declan Rice, when he sits there and says, I thought I knew football until I spoke with him, you have to have known how you're getting the tune out of Havertz. So why isn't it working?
What was the plan?
This is it. Like, it's not making sense. Like, forget Havertz for a sec, man. Let's talk about Maddison and Declan Rice. Because one thing I'll give Declan Rice is I think he's been robbed of being consistently seen as that new look number 8 that Arteta wants to make because Partey isn't obviously been fit. But I think Declan Rice has done well. I wanted to ask you, who do you think's had the greater impact, Maddison or Rice? Because I think it goes both ways, personally.
I think they both had huge impacts in their own way. I don't always think it's either or. I think, you know, a lot of times in football, we always ask the question, who's better, him or him? And it's difficult. Look, first of all, they're very different footballers. Look, Declan Rice has very much been needed for you guys. The departure of Xhaka, the injury to Partey, he's been pivotal to you guys. He is the standout player when I watch you play. James Maddison, for us, equally, he's the standout player because he's our creativity.
Both of them got the X factor, man.
Exactly. So, listen, I think both of them have had good starts to their career. But look, when you buy top professional footballers, there's no risk. You know, you've brought in those two players who both know what they do, both good at their job, both experienced. They just drop in and they hit the ground running. It's when you start buying maybe players. The maybe players, the sometimes players, I call them. That's where you don't know if they're going to hit the ground running.
4 or 5 great games and then they go missing.
You knew what you were getting from Declan Rice. I think the whole country, everyone watches Declan Rice every game for West Ham and for England. And you go, yeah, that's Declan Rice. You know, he's always involved.
Amen.
He gets his foot in. He's got a great engine. He's a leader of men. And you know what? I was one of those ones, Sam. Yes, is £105 million a lot of money? Sure. Okay. But in the era we're in, and the fact that you're getting a young man who, for me, will be an Arsenal captain for years and years to come, you know, you'll look back on this in 7 or 8 years and go, well, you spread that 105 million over those 8 years and 300 appearances or whatever, solid signing. So for me, good player Declan Rice. I do feel people go like my West Ham mates from last season, like, oh, he's the best midfielder the world's ever seen.
Nah, he's not the best in the world. But hopefully one day, but he's definitely not that. He's a very good player at that.
Very, very good footballer. And yeah, listen, I think that Arsenal will have a different look about them when you manage to get him, Partey and Odegaard on the pitch together. I don't know how many times you've managed to get that three on together.
We've been robbed of that consistently this season. Last time I think I saw that was actually probably against City at home, actually, if I'm completely honest. Since then, Partey's had his injuries come out, Odegaard's had a bit of a concussion, Declan Rice has been ever present, and you kind of indirectly touched on it with Partey's injury. One thing I like about Declan Rice is you're always available. It's really going back to City. Yes, they get injuries, but their players, for whatever reason, are always available. That's the best trait you could have. Like, I know Declan Rice arrived at Arsenal with a bit of a knock because, you know, the journalists of this world said such, and he had to come off against you lot. And you saw the whole. I think that's what I like. Jorginho. I think Jorginho's been a lot better than Arsenal fans give him credit for. But, you know, for every good game, like in our defeat against Newcastle, against you lot, Newcastle and City, them games, you sign up for the games like against you lot, where it's open, Jorginho's going to kind of be in trouble, or the first half against Chelsea, where you've got Zinchenko and Jorginho, and, you know, Zinchenko was terrible. I don't think Jorginho was, and it's just they're susceptible on the counter-attack. And that's where any issues Arsenal have in central midfield, I don't really have sympathy for Mikel Arteta already, because we've kind of seen this. Like, if you look at Arsenal's midfield, like players that are likely to play in the pivot behind Odegaard, who really has any confirmation around their name? Who really answers more than they provide questions? It's only really Declan Rice. Jorginho, experienced, I like you, but longevity and certain game demands, I don't know. El Nene, I don't think you're a bad player, but you're someone that's on the peripheral. You get 10 minutes, 20 minutes, the occasional start here and there. The part A quality player, but you never fit. And all three of them are on the wrong side of 30. So we need to get me. I don't know about you lot. Well, I assume, you said centre half in January. Me, I want a striker, I want a winger, but central midfield has to be the priority. If Mikel Arteta said, DG, you can only have one of the three positions, I know you need all three. For me, central midfield, without a doubt, I would like a striker. They win games. I would like competition / someone that can come in for Saka. But I just feel we've got enough to get away with it. Midfield were too weak, man. Way too weak.
Yeah, I think the January window is always dictated by December. I know that sounds really obvious, but I think there's a lot I want Spurs to buy right now. But let's be fair, we could get to the end of December, Son could be injured, and all of a sudden we go, oh my God, right, we need centre backs.
In the works,
do you know what? Hang on, who's going to score goals? Or you could get to that point and go, oh my God, right, well, Basuma's gone to the African Cup of Nations. So has Papa Sarr. Madison's out injured. Oh my God, we've got no midfield. Now I need a midfielder. So I do think that this is, but listen, you know what? This is what these people are paid for at the club. This is what directors of football, technical directors, chief scouts, I don't know.
And they knew winter was coming in the summer.
Yeah. Yeah, like Game of Thrones. Winter was coming and they knew what was going on. And look, let's be brutally honest. For me, we've seen all the documentaries. We've seen all the All or Nothings. Right, we've seen the Salford documentary and the Wrexham documentary. It doesn't matter what level of football you're at. These clubs, from the moment a transfer window shuts, these people in the background are paid to be worrying about the next window. It's not something that you suddenly do in January and go, right, January the 1st here, what should we do?
They should be having talks with agents and dinners and all these things as me and you are making this video, bro.
Exactly. So when people go, oh, but who's available? That's their job. I hate this. Not many people are available. No, this is their job
they're paid to watch these footballers.
August the 31st or whatever it is.
Yeah, August or
September,
October,
November, December. That 4 months is their job to be onto agents. Listen, we want this player. Is he interested? What's his availability going to be like? How much are the club going to want for him? If we try and get him in January, what's the resistance going to be? Does it depend on where you are in the league? This is what they're paid to do. And yet it's the excuses rolled out for them by people all the time. Like, oh, no one was available. What? No one's available.
There's always
in the whole of world football. So
this is something I say, like, the household names is one thing, but there's household names, there's scouts. As you said, people are paid. You've got analytical departments. Like, for instance, my club, we make a big song and dance about collaboration. If we know we need a midfielder, and you collaborate with the analytical department, see the range of targets, the Douglas Luizes and all them guys we're linked with, and random, I don't know, Simon Says from Serbia or whatever, he's not known by anyone. Footballers are found everywhere. Someone's got to start somewhere. Obviously, I know our clubs are not Brighton and the ambition's a bit different and fans would have a lot less patience. But it seems like the minute before Brighton even get one out the door, another one is respawned. Like they've got the next Caicedo before Caicedo.
They're scouting years in advance. Their scouting system is right now.
Ridiculous.
They've got players that they're thinking about for 2025.
This is it.
But you know what? You can only do that when you have a settled manager, a settled director of football, settled scouts, and a settled style of play. The problem with all these clubs that rip up after 6 months, get rid of this manager. All right, this manager comes in. I want a different way of playing. All those people you've been scouting, don't worry about it.
Forget them. Yeah. Start again.
And this is what I always use the term critical thinking in football. This is the thing. As fans, we're so emotional that we say things like this. But then sometimes if you take a step back and go, hang on, let's have a look in the background. That's why football's not as black and white as people want to make it out to be. There's so much money in it that these people are, they're paid to do it. I don't feel sorry for any of them. Yeah. If Spurs don't get a proper centre half in January, there's none of this. Oh, well, who was available? Nah.
You've known before in the summer you needed a centre half, and you found my man from Bundesliga. There must have been another one. If you wasn't have got him, could we have gone for another one? So bring the other one in. You're banging on money, man.
I don't care if you have to go to deepest, darkest Liechtenstein or Mozambique or
Amen.
Timbuktu.
Amen. I'm with you.
You scout the players. And and then we get them in. But look, it's a difficult one. The January transfer window is always difficult because it's where are you at that moment in time? Like, for example, if you're Man City, do Man City really need to go out and buy anywhere? Do Man City need to go and buy anything? For me, it would just be padding out what is already a quality squad, right? I think it's all dictated by, if Arsenal are joint top, you could look at it two ways. Do you go and buy someone to get you over the line? Do you keep it the same because everything's good, you're galvanized and your squad? You know, it all depends where you are. If you're 5 points off it, do you put the money or do you say, hang on, we've lost it this year? But as I said, we're not paid to make those decisions. You know, we're just paid. We're just here to talk football and give opinions.
Exactly. And like you said, for me, January is a difficult time because in an ideal world, no one wants to do business. You know, if both our clubs did everything, me and you, we've got nothing to talk about in January bar the football.
Yeah.
It's a reactive window, bro. It's like, for instance, we're linked with Douglas Luiz. We were linked with Pedro Neto before the injury and Ivan Toney. Now, I'm very pessimistic on getting any of them, but they're all key players. You look at Toney, his contract is running down and he might be getting a bit itchy feet because, you know, he's been linked with you lot, us, Chelsea, United makes that step up and all of that. But Brentford are losing two of their strikers. I think Wiesa and Mbeumo, they're going off like Partey and Bissouma to the African Cup of Nations. They're going to want Toney. And even these clubs, like, for instance, I would take Toney, but you ain't played for 8 months. You know, to go back to your example about pushing us over the line, I think you could, but you're not in your best run of form. I don't know. Pedro Neto, they're gonna outprice you. Douglas Luiz, Aston Villa are flying. They've given you a new deal. If we signed all three, you're probably looking at something similar or just about a little less than what we spent in the summer. It don't really make sense.
I mean, you've got to look at it. If right now, let's use that example, Douglas Luiz, for example. If right now, this is the job of the scouts, the agents, all of these people to go to Douglas Luiz's people and go, hey, Mikel Arteta wants to bring Douglas Luiz to Arsenal in January. Is he interested? Now, more than likely, he's probably going to say yes, because as good as Aston Villa are, I think you're a big... Well,
just a natural progression.
Second thing is, right, okay, how much has he got left on his contract? And if he's got a long time left on his contract, right, so what is going to be the appetite for Unai Emery to turn around and go, yeah, go on then. Yeah, go on. Have one of our first team midfielders.
Have one of my best players.
Exactly. So, but equally, it could be that Aston Villa have got their eye on a centre mid somewhere else. And it could be, well, listen, yes, he can go, but he can only go if we get X, Y, or Z in. And that's why it's difficult. Like, people just pluck these names out the air like they're going to move easily. But this is why you've got to get it done in the summer. You've got to get the bodies in the summer. But listen, we'll see it in January. All fans will lose their mind. I'll be one of them at Spurs. Where's my signings?
You know, I'll be one at Arsenal, 100%. We ain't perfect.
But we all know deep down what the real issue is. So it is what it is.
I mean, all I've got from that is it pays to be proactive, really and truly. Like, I even if Arsenal were to, like, last January, you know, we got a little Trossard, you got a little Kirill, got a little Jorginho. That, you know, two of them players had feet out of the doors at their club. Kirill cost about 20-odd million, 25-odd million. If we could do that. But with Douglas Luiz, you're gonna have to overpay. Now, if you're overpaying, it works great. Who cares? But I can't see us doing it. But yeah, it is what it is. My final question for you, yeah. Honestly, do you think you'll finish above us?
No.
Oh, it's not fun, man. I wish you was a bit
sorry, man. Listen. I'd love to be one of those Spurs fans that says yes. I don't. I'm looking at the long-term injuries of Maddison and Van der Ven. It's not like we're losing two fullbacks. There's losing two of our
players to how you like to play football.
Right. Postecoglou's style of football relies on creativity. We've just had that ripped out of Maddison, and it relies on pace and recovery at the back. And we've had that ripped out with Van der Ven. That's two massive, massive players for us gone.
Big holes in the team.
Yeah, I don't think we've got enough goals. I really don't. I think if you take away Son's goals, I truly think we struggle to score goals. We've only scored more than two once this season in a game.
And I said we struggle for goals, really and truly. Maybe I need to rein it in a bit, really. Someone's always got it worse, for real, bro.
But this is the thing. When people talk about this Postecoglou football and this, you know, this free flowing, we've only scored more than 2 goals once, and that was against Burnley away, where we scored 5. Other than that, it's all 1s and 2s, which is fine. If you win every game 2-0, don't matter. But You know, we saw against Wolves, we scored a goal after 3 minutes, then had absolutely nothing to worry them for the next 90. So, look, I don't think we'll finish above you. Just for clarity, just so every one of your viewers can know exactly what I said.
You're a good one, man.
I've said this at the beginning of the season. I've seen nothing that's made me change my mind. I said Man City will be here. Then
100%.
Down here, I think you've got Liverpool and Arsenal. I've always been a bit like that.
I agree. It's best of the rest settings.
I think Liverpool will slightly edge it because of the goal power they've got. Then Arsenal, and then I think 4th to 8th could be anywhere. Newcastle, Chelsea, Man U, Spurs, Villa, Brighton. It could be anyone in there. So that's how I said at the beginning of the season. I've not seen anything in the first 12 games that makes me change my mind from any of that. So yeah, I'm sticking with that.
No, I'm with you, man. I think, you know, everyone's hope to, well, definitely as an Arsenal fan, my hope would be City have to really fall off a cliff. They're just the best of the rest. Their worst is what a lot of us would dream for. Before I let you get out of it, let people know where they can find you. Again, everything is going to be in the description and pinned to the video, people. But it's best they always hear it from the horse's mouth, man.
Yeah. So Football Heritage TV. I mean, obviously I'm a Spurs fan, but I try and vary my content. I don't like just doing Spurs stuff because otherwise you get so in the zone. So anyone's welcome to come and join us. We've got a new show starting tonight as well called Rivals React. I want to get you involved in this as well.
Come on. What time is that? For people
6 p.m.
6 p.m. people. This is the 14th of November, by the way, folks.
Yeah, so it's a new show called Rivals React, where it's going to be every Tuesday. Fans from every different club, and yeah. So if you want to subscribe, please do. And yeah, hopefully I'm level-headed enough for you to follow. So, but thanks for having me on. I've really enjoyed it.
No, man, I appreciate you. As I said, man, you know, again, you're a Spurs fan, but you must be doing something where all my subscribers are on to me about getting you on. And now I can see why, man. So, yeah, I'll definitely appear on that show.
If they are, they should be my subscribers as well. Like, yeah.
Yeah, they should be your subscribers. You know what? If they are, you know what? They probably want a bit of everything. Like, you're probably in the same boat as me in that, you know, people probably go to other Spurs fans to see them, you know, tearing into themselves and tearing into their club. And when they need some logical analysis and a soothing reality, that's when they probably look at you, how you feel about the game.
Yeah.
We're probably in the same boat, man.
Like when we go and watch AFTV to see a meltdown, right? Is that what you mean?
exactly. Or big up Expressions. I love to see Expressions is in top form half the time when you lot lose, man. But yeah, man, I know you're pressed for time. Let me let you get out of it. People, hit the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. Make sure you're following Football Heritage TV. Sava, appreciate that, man. We'll definitely do more content.
Enjoyed
man.
it. Definitely.
Safe, man.
Thank you for having me.
Come on, man.
Spurs, because you always used to act when defending. I think it's like